Lamentations chapter 1, the later part, verses 12 to 22. Rather than rush through it, even though there are only 22 chapters, 22 verses in each chapter, I want to do it slowly. And even as I try to go into the document and try to feel their pain, it's hard. It's still, I'm an outsider looking in. But then I realized the Holy Spirit led me to think it's speaking to you. It's a warning. It's not just an event that happened in Jerusalem a few hundred years ago. It's a lesson for all times that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That just as he dealt with them then, their sinful, their willfulness, their disobedience, he is the same God that he too today, especially when this guy say, we seem to think that because of our familiarity with Jesus Christ, we seem to think that the rough edges of God has been smoothed away, but not so. More so, we today have the Son of God. We have God himself. More so should we take this even more seriously than they did then, and were punished for it. God is just. God is righteous. That means there is consequences to sin right from the start when he said, I will be your God, you will be my people. For that reason, when you have marital vows, he is the husband and the people is the bride. So here, chapter 1 of Lamentations is all mostly the people in Jerusalem speaking of their sorrows, their pain. So at the end of chapter 1, she's all spent out. She's like, oh, I can't say anymore. So chapter 2, the narrator, we call him poet, takes over and speaks for her to God and cries to her one more time. Okay, do it one more time. And she manages a few lines at the end of chapter 2. So chapter 1 is all about her sorrow. And verse 12 says, is it nothing to you, she says, all ye that pass by, behold and see, if there be any sorrow like unto my sorrow, which is done unto me, wherewith the Lord have inflicted me in the day of his fierce anger, in the day of the Lord's anger, in the day of the Lord's wrath. It's always used by previous pre-exilic prophets to denote a day when God will punish the enemies, his enemies, the enemies of his people. It's always used on other people. But here, Lady Zion recognizes that what is happening to her came from the hand of God, that this is the day of the Lord's anger. Instead of being on other people, is being inflicted on her. And she knows the reason too. It's not that she's unaware. And we should know the reason too, because I will be your God, you will be my people. Deuteronomy 28, choose on my right hand obedience and blessings. On my left hand, disobedience and curses. And when you read the blessings, and then you read the curses is the reversal of the blessings. It's very simple. So even as I read it from this point of view, like an academic, far from where it's the people, then the Holy Spirit impressed upon me, it's speaking to you too. He's the same God, that there is consequences to sin. Just as it happened to them, it could happen to us too, if we should be willful and be disobedient. We will then experience the day of the Lord's anger on us, instead of calling it upon other people. So verse 13 to 15 says, she identifies who is doing this. But we know, when Jeremiah says, look, the Babylonians have encircled the city, but look behind the Babylonians. As God. See, God is using the Babylonians to inflict the pain on the people of Jerusalem. She doesn't say the Babylonians did this, the Babylonians did that. She says, he have sent fire into my bones, and it prevaileth against them. He have spread a net for my feet. He have turned me back. He have made me desolate and faint all the day. The yoke of my transgressions is bound by his hand. They are wreathed and come up upon my neck, and he hath made my strength to fail. He, the Lord, have delivered me into their hands, from whom I'm not able to rise up. The Lord hath trodden underfoot all my mighty men in the midst of me. He have called an assembly against me to crush my young men. So she does not say the Babylonians did this, but rather that her destruction, we have just been told, is because of her sin. And the poet, the narrator, reinforces that once more. Her shame, therefore, is the product of her sin. See, he's taken my sin and wreathed it around my neck, tied me up so I can get up, and my enemies treads and tramples all over me. See, and she does not say that the Babylonians did this, but rather he, God himself. And, he has spread the net, caught me in my net. He has made this city desolate. He has done this. The Lord has trodden the virgin and the daughter of Judah as in a winepress. And for this reason, for these things, I weep. Mine eye runneth down with water, because the Comforter that should relieve my soul is far from me, and my children are desolate because the enemy prevaileth. See, the very person I appeal to for relief is the person who's inflicting this pain on me. So it's, according to this, the sexual abuse thing is the nuance of it is in the document throughout, where it talks of virgins, and in wartime, as in today, the women folk gets the brunt of it. They get abused, and it's tough to see. It's tough to even read. But read it we must, to prevent us from going the same way, that God is righteous and just. And just because Jesus came doesn't mean that the rough edges have been smoothed off and we like this God better. He is the same. Which means what? See? Which means, the same thing he did to them, he could do to any of us if we should be willful and break the covenant relationship. So the day of the Lord's anger can be upon us, his people, his willful people. And that's very sobering. It should be sobering. I keep wondering, why don't we read Lamentations? Why do we avoid Lamentations, that as if it happened at one time in history and never to be repeated? No, even as they remember the Passover forever, we should read the destruction and the siege of Jerusalem forever and not avoid it, so that if ever we should fail, we know what's going to happen. See, he will feed us to the wolves, so to speak. The Babylonians will do what the Babylonians does. And when we sin, what will happen? All my enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that thou hast done it. See, he will hand us over to godless people, and godless people will do what godless people does. They'll dance on your graves. They won't help you. They will be glad and gloat and be gleeful and look at this Christian. I've seen non-Christians better than these Christians. Always remember that nothing is worth breaking this covenant relationship with our God. See, there's so many rules and things, and we say, when I was younger, I used to think that, I want to have some fun first before I commit. What a, how stupid, thinking back. That's so childish in the sense that because my knowledge of the Bible is limited. We read, especially if we read only the New Testament, we need to read Lamentations. We need to read the Old Testament and know that it's the same God, that He has given us all these rules and laws, this relationship between us out of love. It's like, this is for fire, do not touch it. See, you form a fence around it. Is this to hurt us? It's like, I want to touch it, I want to have some fun first. Think how childish and stupid it is that he put a fence around these things. Do not go there. Okay, it is out of love to protect us. We must always think that it's not like I want to have some fun. He's ruining my fun. When I was younger, I was like that, but not anymore. Today, even as I read this, I'm trying to get it drilled down into the so deep in me that forms my DNA that I will not be willful ever again. So if we should do that, always think that your friends, your family, your enemies will laugh at you and gloat and be gleeful when you fail, as let his God help him. So finally, she cries again to ask God to bring the real day of God's wrath on the enemies of God, the true enemies of God. Thou wilt bring the day that thou hast called, and they shall be like unto me, and they will have the same fate as I do today. Let all their wickedness come before thee, and do unto them as thou hast done unto me, for all my transgressions. For my sighs are many, and my heart is faint. So she rallies one more breath, one more strength to call on God to bring upon the enemy the day of the Lord's wrath, that it will be what happens to her will happen to them. It is sobering as I go through this, and each time to remember and get on my knees and say, Lord, like I said, drill down deep into me that I should never take your name in vain and bring dishonor and disgrace to your name. Not just that. Shame and disgrace and dishonor unto me, and have my enemies dance on my grave and laugh and gloat. Never. I hope this has blessed you as it has blessed me tremendously.